increasing global uncertainty, what is the next big thing? Is it going to be the decade of AI? Is that a story that is being overbought right now? And what will we see in terms of India emerging as one of the largest players on the world stage? Now, rather than me speculate about all of these things, I think the best person to speak to about this is John Chambers. He's with us right now in this exclusive interview, speaking only to the NDTV network. And remember, John Chambers' 2024 outlook is something that is very well followed, very well, seen by everyone, and he gets most of his predictions right. So
I try hard. I've seen every movie, Tamanna, and I've made every mistake there is to make, but I'm pretty good at pattern recognition.
Yeah. So having said that, your predictions on inflation being a big pain post the pandemic, on the impact of COVID, on a whole host of things, has really ticked all the boxes. So that's a great spot to start with.
Yes.
And let's begin with that. So the biggest or the number one on your list for predictions for 2024 is AI, something which half the world is scared of and the other half is excited about. Where do you stand?
Well, I'm the half that is realistic on the opportunity it will bring. It will help us cure cancer. It will make us more healthy over time. It has the benefit to benefit every citizen in the world, and to have economic strengths as well as huge productivity strengths. It's going to move very fast, though, so I worry about job creation keeping up with the jobs that it will displace. I worry about misuse, especially in cybersecurity on it. But where you're leading me, I agree with, because when you talk to a person about their views for the future, your audience is going to say, well, I've heard about John, but I don't know him that well. You were kind in the introduction. In January of 2020, we said there's some illness coming out of China that is slowing business in Southeast Asia. And I said, this is going to have a major economic impact.
Yeah.
And then by 2022, at the time, everybody thought COVID, and it was a terrible thing that happened to all of us, but thought that would be the dominant force in 2022 and 23. I said, no, it will be inflation, which unfortunately turned out to be very accurate. That was when I made the big bets on AI, saying it would become mainstream in early 22, and it did toward the end of that year, as you know. I've been betting on AI companies, including several major Indian startups, for 7 years now. And I think it will not only be as big as the internet or the cloud, it'll be 3 to 5 times its size. I think its impact on society will be largely positive, but we've got to have some guide rails in place. Do I think India has a chance to lead in AI in a way it's never led in technology before? I really do.
Today, if you ran a large IT company or an internet company and you're wondering, what do I do with AI, where I make money off it, I make sure it's safe, it doesn't destroy the world as a lot of people are thinking about it, regulations are on the horizon. What do you do right now? If you led, as of today, of course, you lead very successful startup venture, and we'll come to that. But today, in that position, what would you do?
Well, when I left Cisco, I made my personal commitment. I would support them, but it was their company to run. And I wouldn't want the ex-CEO saying, here's what I think of that company's future, et cetera. So I did that very smoothly, and Cisco's a great company. It's my child on it. Now, back to your bigger question, however, a large high-tech company, or a large bank, or a large insurance company, or a large retail company, or a large oil company, you've got to have the courage to reinvent yourself. You've got to have the courage to disrupt. You've got to have the courage to destroy your business models before somebody else destroys them. You've got to have the courage to get out of your comfort zone, where you don't view AI as fear. You say it has tremendous power. I've got to understand its strengths, and I've got to understand how I'm going to use it uniquely. And if you watch the companies that have moved well in the stock market, and I'll pick a couple out, in the U.S., they're the companies that not only said, I'm going to adapt AI, and here's what I'm going to do in my strategy, but they were able in their most recent quarters to show the business results that came from them. Companies like ServiceNow have done a great job. Companies like Microsoft have done a great job. Now, you might say as an audience, yeah, but those are all tech companies. Postal service companies, government companies, they are the slowest moving companies in the world, right? I want to pick out La Poste. That's led by an amazingly good Philippe Poil, CEO. And with 260,000 postal workers, he made a decision a decade ago to bet on AI. And he explained to his entire employee base, to his shareholders, to the unions, on what that would mean for their future. He trained 230,000 employees on AI. You're talking about people who used to deliver the mail, who now are delivering services as a trusted band throughout all of France. He acquired 7 or 8 AI companies. He works with startups all the time. So every industry has the chance to reinvent itself. Now, here's the downside. If companies who have been successful keep doing the right things too long, they're going to get into trouble. And the market sees that. So you've got to have the courage to take risks. And as you start across uncharted waters, there are going to be some bumps along the way, and you have to adjust very quickly. That's what Silicon Valley's traditionally done very well. But it used to be mainly Silicon Valley where 90% of venture capital goes. I make a huge amount of my own bets. And I've got 9 unicorns, as we said earlier, not bad out of 20 companies. And I'm a small startup. But half my CEOs are Indian diaspora, or located here in India. India has an education and democracy system. You've learned how to partner with the U.S., and the U.S. has learned how to partner with India. That perhaps was the biggest bet that I made 7 years ago, in saying this should be the most important relationship in the world, not just on business to business and nice economic returns, but to the lives of every citizen, for job creation, toward the 1.2 million jobs we need to create in this country per month. The ability to look at where the market's going and say India will not only be the most successful economically, but it will be inclusive of all groups. And to do it in partnership with the U.S., the largest democracy. We will work together in common goals such as supply chain, manufacturing, agriculture, defense, but have the ability to dream together.
Yeah.
Is it easy to do? No. But I think this country can do it.
You know, we have an election this year, a big one in India and the US.
Yes.
I may go as far as to say maybe the one in the US will be more of a suspense and exciting than in India. The markets, etc., have factored in policy continuity here at least. Does it make a difference to the partnership whether Trump is in the White House possibly, or a Biden continuation, or someone else? As a business leader, how big a factor is it about what happens in the United States in terms of elections later this year?
Well, one of the first things that I did when I was fortunate enough to have the leadership at Cisco in the very early 90s is I formed, along with one of the top venture capitalists, John Doerr, TechNet. And that was to have influence in Washington and around the world on technology, which we never did before. And we always did it as individual companies. And we built it with the premise that we cannot be tied to one political party or another. We have to represent all of America because there's going to be lots of challenges that go with it. So I think business leaders who make the mistake of tying themselves completely to one party or another make a mistake on that. I think the business leaders can say what their opinions are and what they view in terms of economic growth and creation and predictability. And then you can say your views in terms of the importance that India and the U.S. play very strongly, which I have no problem doing with whichever leader the U.S. picks. I wish we had stronger leaders in the cycle, to be very candid. As you know, the majority of Americans would like to see somebody other than the 2 most likely candidates. First time in my lifetime that's occurred. But my parents are both doctors. You deal with the world the way it is. And so whichever one wins, I will absolutely support. And whichever one wins, I guarantee you Prime Minister Modi will find a way to build that trust and a candid relationship. But the teams now trust each other. The American Indian diaspora is amazingly powerful. Half of our large technology companies are led by ex-Indians.
Why do you think so? I mean, that's a matter of fascination back home as well. And, you know, Indians here like to sort of think that, oh, they're our own. Of course, a lot of them have studied.
They are your own.
I mean, they've got those opportunities. In America, they're American citizens, but, you know, we like to appropriate all your brown CEOs. But why do you think that happens?
Well,
why do you
you're
think
going to have
works?
to accept me as an Indian, too, because I love this country. But why it happened is very simple. Your IITs and your education system generated 3 decades of top engineers. And the majority of successful companies, whether it's Lisa Su at AMD, or where you're going with Microsoft with Satya, Adobe with Shantanu, IBM with Arvind, etc., half of those leaders are Indian engineers. I'm the exception. I'm a business leader, in a technology-driven environment. And so the reason is very simple. An education system that teaches about technology and how to build great companies is just getting stronger, but also one that learns how to partner together. So if you talk to any of the leaders I've just met, all of them believe hugely in the Indian-U.S. relationship. Yeah. All of them believe in how do we benefit the citizens in America and the citizens in India, inclusive, and regardless of age, geographic location, religion, et cetera, on it. So it's a simple answer. People try to make it too complex. When I said India will become the largest economy in the world, first leader, I think, to really say that very aggressive on a national stage in front of your prime minister and in front of Secretary of State Blinken, that was, in hindsight, a little bit scary, and it was.
I want to ask you why you made that bet, and you've spoken about Prime Minister Modi, through this interview. Yes. You've even said that I wish we had a leader like him in the U.S. Yes. I want to understand why. I want to understand why, and why you are saying that India will be the largest economy in the world. It's a matter of when, not if.
Yes. So you really hit at the heart of the issue, and you got there very quickly. The reason I'm very good at pattern recognition, I'm dyslexic, which means I have to go A, B, Z. I can't go A, B, C, D, E, F. I get lost in it. And for any of your audience who's dyslexic, and it's something, there's a weakness on one hand, but you have to learn to balance. It's a nice way of saying, once I see pattern recognition, I look, how does that play out? And that's why people say I'm able to see around the corners. I'm able to understand the internet, the cloud, cybersecurity, voice being free. Every country becomes digital. Now every country becomes an AI company. If you look at the mathematics, India's population is going to have the fastest economic growth, not just for the next 5 years, but with the plans and programs your prime minister is putting in place now for the next 20 to 30 years, assuming that you have the courage to continue to take risks and be critical of yourself on it. You look at the population growth, average age 26 or younger, average age in China aging rapidly in terms of the direction. China's population going from about 1.4 billion to 800 million with a much older population. India's going from 1.4 billion to 2 billion. The ability to do the education with the speed, the optimism, the entrepreneurship. China's issues are how self-inflicted. They got away from reasonably free enterprise. They got away from startups. The government started to get involved in almost everything, put regulations in place, put a win-lose mentality versus the U.S. and much of the rest of the world. It doesn't surprise me they've slowed down.
Do you think they can recover?
No.
No?
I think the mistakes have been too dramatic. Now they've got demographics going against them on population from 1.4 to 800 million. Could they? Yes, but do I think they will? No, because it requires tremendous courage. And you've got to say, what was it that got us on top and miss? Now, remember, 3 years ago, if I had said that, everybody would look at me like, John, what are you thinking? But I said it 3 and 5 years ago. And it's hard once you lose that entrepreneurial spirit. It's hard once you use the foreign direct investment into a country to get it going again. Trust. Do you have the track record? Do you have the relationships and trust? And China lost most of those. Now, do I think it's in India's and the U.S. best interest in China to recover and get stronger? Absolutely. Because this is one the whole world can benefit from. And do I think over time the U.S. and China will do dramatically better than we are doing today? Yes. But China came with a win-lose attitude. And so I think in that people forgot about entrepreneurship and the empowerment. And if a government, regardless of its form of government, over-regulates, over-controls innovation, you don't move with the speed of innovation. Could they recover? Possibly, but I think if you look at the math, it's very hard. Okay. So how did I see it? Purely math. It was easy to do the math out, the education, the democracies working together, et cetera. Now, if India misexecutes or the U.S. misexecutes, could China be there? Yes. Fast forward from 3 years ago, everybody said China would be number one. People said U.S. would be number two, India number three. I actually think it's going to be India, U.S., and China. If I were forecasting out a half century, I'd say the U.S. will be probably 30% bigger than China. India will be maybe 90% bigger than China.
Whoa.
So we'll see if that plays out.
Yeah, that's a big
one.
Am
I an optimist? Oh, yeah. But I believe in your country. I believe in your citizens. I believe in the relationship with the U.S. You are a country of dreamers, but you have the ability now, because you've seen it work, to take dreams, inspire hope, make a difference, and drive it through.
This has been fantastic. Thank you so much, John.
It was an honor. Thank you as always.
Thank you.